This is a plot of land between two parks in Brussels. I live in Brussels, I'm German. And this is the connection between two parks where I usually go for jogging. And I was really surprised, like last week I crossed it, no, last week was this week. And suddenly the park that was a green space has transformed into a field. This is in the center of Brussels. And well, I went there and I figured out that this was a project organized by the municipality, by the municipality of Brussels. And that really made me laughing because I'm part of a community group in my neighborhood and we tried to plant fruit in a public space 3 years ago. And we faced all those reasons why this is not possible, legally and whatever. And well, 3 years later, it appears to be possible. You know, mindsets of people change. And you know, when this has been for a certain while, people can even not imagine this place without a field. And this is a part of transition as well, that our minds change. Climate change means, first of all, that we have to change our lives, that we have to change the way how we produce, how we consume, for the simple reason that for the moment, all our wealth is depending on oil and gas that we are burning in a way or another for getting products to our places. And if we recognize that in Paris an international agreement has been taken, and that this agreement means we have to really cap our global warming to 2 degrees or even 1.5 as it was agreed, it means that most of the oil and gas that is available has to stay where it is. And that means really that profoundly the way how our life is organized, how we produce and consume, has to change. And that means to achieve this goal in the next, let's say, 30, 35 years, we need to join all our forces. And that means join the forces on a global level, on a national level, on regional, local level, and individually. And what we speak about, what we mean with transition, is being part of this process, this transformation, this big transformation process, but looking especially to the individual and the community side. And that's like all the projects that you've seen before, this is part of that. How can we contribute to this thing, this big turning, this great shift, as an individual and as a community? That does not mean that we don't need political power, important decisions to be made by politics. But it means for me that we should not wait for those things to happen. It means that we can act on the level where we have power. I'm not a politician. I'm not a boss of a big company. They might have other powers as I do, but I have an impact on my community, on my friends, on my neighbors, and in a way on you, because, well, we are sitting together here now. So for me, transition is what Anna explained as a transition network. A network of community groups from all over the UK, all over Europe, all over the world, that connected and to have the same values. But for me, first of all, transition is a mindset. You and you and you all can say, this is true, what can I contribute, what can I do? There's somebody who's a teacher who can think, what can I contribute to this kind of idea of a big turning in this big shift in our society as a teacher? Well, somebody else is maybe just without a job, married at home, guarding kids. Well, what can this woman or what can this man do? Well, there's a lot, you know. As a teacher, you have impact on people. As when you're sitting at home, you can say like, why do we need multinational companies? The question I would have asked 2 years ago is, why do we need multinationals? We have to destroy them because they're too big, they're too powerful. But we could turn the question around. Why do we need multinationals to produce biscuits? Isn't producing biscuits something that we can easily do at home and ourselves? If you turn the question like this is really radical. Because you're questioning the system, but the simple question, why do I not produce my cookies, my biscuits myself? And if you're not interested in biscuits, you can ask the same question for anything that you're consuming, that you're doing, that you're using, that you're interested in. And this, for me, is transition. So ask yourself, what I can contribute in this thing. I know we need to do a lot. What is my thing? What is my role that I can play? I said it's a transition is a process. I still have a few minutes. I think it's very positive, and it was already mentioned, that this thinking about this transformation process, you can take climate change as a big threat, a danger. And in a way, it's a big danger, it's a big challenge, but you can see it as well as an opportunity for changing our life to something that is more livable, that is more desirable. What are you, or what am I actually desiring? How do I wish the world, how do I wish my neighborhood, how do I wish my family, how do I wish my home to be? For me, it was a really difficult question that I was asked a few years ago. How do you imagine your neighborhood in 20 years? If somebody had asked me, how do I imagine my career in 20 years? That was a question I was prepared for. But the question, how do I imagine, how do I wish my neighborhood to be like? I never thought about that. And I think there is a lot of visions that have been produced, by the industry. When you take, for example, all this mobility, electrical mobility, that's a great idea to imagine that we have cars that do not smell anymore. But is it really desirable to have all the cars that we have today just being replaced by electrical cars? Sounds interesting, but I wonder where that electricity should come from. If we think about a big changing, a big transformation process, does this not mean that maybe we need a different mobility? When you see it from the point of view of big industry, this is a great business if all the cars will be replaced by electrical cars. But with a sense, with looking at this figure, the 20%, and seeing that even if we have electrical power plants, no matter what kind, they produce emissions as well. Is this really the mobility we are desiring? I don't want to give an answer, I just want to ask this question. So basically, our society works, and our wealth that we have generated works a lot because, there's a lot of cooperation on a global level. And cooperation means, for example, when you look at a car that you buy here somewhere in Sweden, all the different parts from the car come from all over the world. Everything is interconnected. And for me, it was really scary to hear that just a short time after Fukushima, the car production of Opel in Germany stopped. And it stopped because a tiny part of this car, this complex thing, was produced near Fukushima, and as all the production is real time, so they don't have stocks anymore. The car production in Germany stopped because an incident that happened 20,000 kilometers further. And for me, if you really want to achieve something, we have to decomplexify the world in many aspects. And I don't want to say that localism is the solution. But I think that the world that we should desire should be a little bit less globalized, especially in these sectors where it's possible. The sectors means for me, for example, when I go to Belgium, and Belgium is a country that is really perfect, fertile for potatoes. If I see in a Belgian supermarket potatoes being sold from Turkey or from Egypt, I really wonder why this hell happens. If you speak about banana, it's a different discussion, you know? But if we speak about potatoes, then definitely that has to happen where we are. And a lot of food products, this is something that can happen very easily. Transition for me means that, apart from what I mentioned initially, that it's a question of mindset and that everybody can participate, I think it's important that we come to a kind of paradigm shift where we're not only looking to growth as the sole way of seeing and measuring the world. Economic growth is definitely not unimportant, but it's not the sole mean what we should look at. Decomplexifying economy is another one. Redeveloping the culture of exchanging goods, as we've seen, for example, with air cafes, or all what you mentioned, you know, working together, collaborating, exchanging, redeveloping skills. I mean, when you look at your parents, what my parents, what our grandparents, but they knew to do things, I really feel stupid because I can use a mouse, you know, or a keyboard, or a smartphone, but nothing really far beyond. And I think we have to redevelop skills that are useful for our everyday life, you know. And the other thing is that it's really important to inspire others. You know, the example what I brought was the park. We inspired the local government that buildings, growing food locally is definitely not the solution for feeding everyone, but for changing mindsets it's really important. So we changed the minds of our municipality simply by the fact that we are challenging them. And if you do good things, you can't imagine how many people you influence, because you don't see it, but it really happens. Now I still have a very few minutes where I go through a few things that I would like to show you. The first one is, when we started a meeting in my neighborhood, we started a kind of community group, as you had one in Norway. We started one in Belgium. And we simply put letters in the mailboxes saying we are a group of neighbors and we would like to change our neighborhood to something more sustainable and more livable. And we were really surprised. For the first meeting we had about 100 people come. And we were asking them actually what is important to them. And the surprising thing was they had all the answers. They knew what was not working well, and often they had the solutions. So you don't have to go far for defining problems and for finding solutions. Just ask people. And if you help them a little bit, a lot of them are even willing to contribute to solutions. Here we have something that is about food sharing. I will simply not mention it. In London they had a very nice project where they started growing as well at different bus stops. Why? Because they could. And in a way, you could go to every bus stop, you could stop, you could grab something to eat and go to the next bus stop with the bus and grab again something to eat. This is the same kind of thinking, changing mindsets. We spoke about repair cafes, public places where people get together and help others to get a pair of jeans repaired, to get a bicycle repaired, to get a coffee machine repaired. Here we have an example from Germany that I really like. You have a lot of rural areas where all the shops, one after the other, disappear. First the baker, then the butcher, then the food shop, then the bar, and then basically the village or the area is dead. And what they've done, they called it Dorf shops. They just had one roof. It was community financed. They had one roof, and under this roof they had a shop. They had a baker, they had a room where different doctors could come for consultation once per week. You could register your car in this place. So it was a kind of multifunctional shop, and that really increased a lot the life quality in the village. All those things are important, but I think if you think in these steps of helping yourself, of inspiring others, at some point you come to the point where you say, but I have to live from something. And for me the next step is then to think more in economic terms, that you say like, what could we do in order to make our living and to produce products that are really useful where we are, and then that generates an income for me. I was speaking about what could everybody do. Here's an example from France, from the Alsace, where a mayor of a village simply said like, so what I can do. And he changed a lot of things, local energy production. He was obliged to make sure that kids could get to school, and he decided he don't want the minibus anymore, and he sold the minibus and bought a horse. And so this is a public horse to bring the kids to school. And people, especially the kids, they love it. When you see, I mean, maybe you have heard about Germany and energy transition. You have lots of little projects. The majority of the projects of renewable energy in Germany are community projects that are either by individuals or held by cooperatives. 32% of energy in Germany is now renewable. There was even a moment 2 weeks ago when it was for a few hours 100%. This can happen if you multiply, if you take all those little projects. Each of them is almost unimportant, but if you take them all together, you can change the world. And this is just an example how things can happen. And well, for me, this means transition.